let me just say, and it would have been a lot worse 2 weeks ago if I would have been here, like I said earlier, but it is absolutely infuriating to me that the Cubs are not even going to give Juan Soto a contract offer. Not even be in the conversation. At least be like the Red Sox, who are going to be in the conversation, and then he's not going to sign there. Okay? At least be like what you were with Ohtani last year. I think that's
At least pretend.
At least pretend. The fact that you're not even, when you're like, what, with all the money coming off the books, what, at like $170 million on your payroll right now, with all the money off the books and where you're at, to not even send a offer? Jeff Passan's right in that rant that he went on last week on whatever podcast he was on, or maybe it was on, I don't know.
Yeah, he was on with Cespedes Barbecue.
Right. It's an absolute joke. And all it really does for me, as someone who has sat here and not necessarily blamed ownership for a lot of things, I said this before. If they don't do anything massive this offseason, after what's happened the last 2 years, it will show the true colors of the Cubs ownership. As much good as they have done, because you can certainly make the argument that the Ricketts family is the best ownership in this city, but the bar is really low if you just go back the last 8 years, all right? It's an absolute joke that they're not at least pretending to be into conversations for Juan Soto. We're talking about a top 5, top 3 perhaps player in all of baseball. We sat here for 6-7 months, Luke, every day talking about how this organization doesn't have the guy, like a star, a game changer, an impact player. The closest thing to it is Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki. And then we're going to rely on a bunch of top 100 prospects to perhaps maybe turn into stars, right? Like, you have to do both. You need some of those guys to hit, but you also need that guy, the proven guy. And the fact that he's not even like 30 years old, he's 25, 26 years old. The fact that you're not even in on at least considering it, sending a low ball offer even. At least the White Sox did that with Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. To not even send a low ball offer for Juan Soto is an absolute joke. It's a joke, and it's starting to show the true colors of Cubs ownership. As much as I've sat here and defended it a little bit and said that, obviously I was really down on Jed this year. Obviously I've questioned a lot of other decisions. But when it comes to a guy like Juan Soto, the fact that this ownership is not even pushing to go get a guy like that who can legitimately change the trajectory of your organization, and hell, even the perception around the league and the fans. Imagine if the Cubs had signed Juan Soto and all the people who have, like Godfather, for example, complained about how we've spent money, how we're never in on top free agents. If they actually did it, the perception, and then all the money you will make back. All the money you will make back. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'll sit here. I'm always gonna support the organization in terms of just from a fan perspective, but it's a joke that you're not doing it. And I'm never gonna sit here and tell no one to not go to Wrigley Field, because let's just use Luke as an example. He's a dad. At some point in his life, he's gonna want to take his son and his daughter to Wrigley Field one day, because there's nothing like going to Wrigley Field for the first time. And I can imagine as a parent, there's nothing like taking your kid to a baseball game for the first time.
If the tickets are free.
Yeah. Perhaps. The point is I'm never going to tell fans to not go to Wrigley Field or whatever, because it's an amazing venue. There's nothing like it. I love going to Wrigley Field every summer. I give all the support to all the season ticket holders who want to go to Wrigley, and if they have the money and they want to, and they have the money to be able to do that, that's on them, and good for them. I wish I had the money. I do not, and the Cubs keep calling me to try and be a season ticket holder, and I just simply can't afford it. Meanwhile, the Pirates are basically telling people, hey, we'll give you season tickets for 30 years if you have a Paul Skeens rookie card or whatever the heck it is.
And you get to sit in the suite with Libby.
The fan base deserves so much more, man. We deserve so much more. So the fact that you're not even considering Juan Soto is so infuriating to me. It's so infuriating to me, because the fan base deserves so much. You charge $16 beers. You charge all this money for this. You've made all these ballpark improvements. And granted, they needed it. They absolutely needed it. But the fact that you do all this and now you're still at this point not doing whatever it takes to be among the top 7 teams in baseball even. It's a joke, man. So all I can say is that we all deserve better. And if you don't want to go, you want to boycott Wrigley or whatever, it won't change anything. I wouldn't blame you, though. That's the point. That's where I'm at. Like, unless this team starts winning, making the playoffs at the very least on a regular basis, I don't blame fans for canceling season tickets, for not going. I simply can't blame people for doing it. So there are a lot of things going on internally with the organization. I agree. But you could also be right there with the Dodgers, the Yankees, even the Padres. What other teams am I missing? The Mets even. The Mets are rumored to be in with like every single free agent this offseason because their owners will spend wheelbarrows of cash. You know, the Phillies. The fact that you're just not in that same league when you are who you are just makes me want to punch one of these brick walls and break a hand. That's where I'm at. It's a joke. It's a joke, man.
Hand by
Cody's
hand.
anger management classes over the last 2 weeks did not pay off.
No, yeah. It's
I didn't cuss that entire rant, by the way.
That
That's
was
good,
better.
that's good.
That was
Yeah,
better.
we're
That was
proud of you for
improved.
that one.
break zone.
They couldn't even. They can't. They're not even willing to try to be creative. They're not willing to say, okay, we'll give him $100 million a year with tons of opt-outs and see if he'll take it for 2 years. Because you know what? Those fans that come out to Wrigley Field, the best ballpark, will then have the experience of a lifetime watching this guy play baseball, even if it's just for a year or two until a prospect takes that spot. He can opt out after 1 year. He can opt out after 2 years. Now we have a guy to put in. Why not throw a huge number at him for 1 year and say, dude, you can go through the same process next year, but you'll have $100 million in your back pocket from us. Whatever the number is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the Dodgers got creative with Ohtani. Find a way to get creative.
Defer the money.
so that he fits into some sort of plan, even if it's just a small period of time. Because like you said, Wrigley Field is an unbelievable experience. But the thing that's better than an unbelievable experience at Wrigley Field is watching a superstar in your uniform at Wrigley Field and having a chance to win.
We all silly like the mayor.